Hi everyone, welcome to ITIS Library. This workshop is the last workshop of the month and probably the last workshop of the year. And this workshop is about plagiarism. And it is a very important issue, and there's a reason why we teach this. I'm the first person who teaches this class, but hopefully I'm not the last one to do it. So I design the whole workshop and I teach it every year to all the new students. Okay, so what I already told you is to review the worksheets, only the part 1 and 2. So by now, this is the video. So you could just pause the video and you could go to the worksheets and read through all those questions and have an idea about your answers for all those questions. So when we could discuss, or you can pause when I ask you a question and then you can resume the video. Then I think that's how you learn when you're watching this video. So in this workshop, there are 3 things that I would like to talk about. First is plagiarism and the related issues. Second is citation. Citation means that when you borrow people's sentences and ideas, you have to provide the ideas or those sentence information, like who wrote it, what's the name of the book, the publisher, the year, and even date and time that you access that information. Number 3 is about paraphrasing. And we are going to do a very simple exercise before the end of this workshop. So, have you heard of plagiarism? You could pause the video now and think of, have I learned anything about plagiarism? Do I know this phrase? I have students who have heard the word from his or her children. And it's possible because in our country, in the United States, it's a standard for teaching these issues at colleges and universities. And I remember I learned about the issue is when I was taking an English writing class. So when it comes to writing intensive class, plagiarism is often an issue and the topic that will come out. So what is plagiarism? It comes from a Latin word called Pagerize. It means kidnapper. So if you're talking about plagiarism in writing and the word means kidnapper, so what do you think the definition will be? So you can pause the video right now, think for a few seconds, and then resume the video. That's the definition. Plagiarism is the act of taking another person's words or ideas and presenting them as your own. It can also involve failing to give credit for your words or ideas that you use. So you could see kidnapper, so he's stealing the words, the paper, even the books from others without, even though you pay for the book doesn't mean you can steal it. So you still have to give credit to the words or the ideas that you use. So let's define plagiarism. So let's go to the worksheets part 1. You should be able to have it in front of you when you watch this video at this moment. So let's start with the first question. You submit a paper that your friend wrote with his permission as your own. Do you think it's plagiarism? Yes or no? So you can pause the video, think about it, and I'll tell you the answer. The answer is yes. Why? Because he didn't write it. And plagiarism is often a problem because when you plagiarize, you don't learn anything. So if you use your friend's paper and submit it as your own, you're not learning anything. So it's a violation of school policy and you're not learning anything. So it's ethically wrong also. Number 2, you submit the same paper for 2 different classes. Is it plagiarism or not? You can pause the video right now, think about it, and I'll tell you the answer. The answer is yes, it's plagiarism. Why? Because the paper, even though you wrote the paper, but it's for different classes. Again, ethically, you're not learning anything new, so it'd be wrong. But if you're taking very similar classes at ITS with pretty much the same professor, you should talk to the professor before you write it. You should tell the professor, hey, I have taken the other class very similar to this one, and I've done the same paper. Can I use that paper to submit? You have to talk to your professor about this. It's not like a definite yes or no, but you just have to communicate with the professor before you even write the paper. Okay, number 3, you copy a passage and use thesaurus to change many words. Is it plagiarism or not? So you can pause the video now, think about it. I'll tell you the answer. The answer is yes, it's plagiarism. Why? Because you're not doing it enough. You only change words. But changing words in a sentence or in a paragraph is not enough. You have to do a lot more. You have to cite, you have to rewrite the sentence, and we're going to talk about that later. Number 4, give the name of the original author, but don't use quotation marks around his exact words. Is it plagiarism? You can pause the video now, think about it, and I'll tell you the answer. The answer is yes, it's plagiarism. Why? Because you forgot the quotation mark. I mean, punctuations are very important when it comes to writing a paper, writing a thesis or dissertations, because when you miss even the quotation mark, your professor would think that, hey, obvious this word is not from him, but how come he put it like this, appearing to be his own or her own? So punctuation is very important. You cannot miss anything. It has to be very forward when you write your paper. Number 5, is it always wrong to copy and paste from a website into your paper, but end with citation? You can pause the video now, think about it, and resume your video. I'll tell you the answer. No, it's not plagiarism. You're doing it correctly. This is the only no in this exercise because, yes, you cut and paste, it's from a website, but you did cite it. You provide the citation, then it's legal. So that would be okay. So this is the only no answer for this exercise. What can we plagiarize? So it's obviously what we talked about, because you're not learning anything. That's ethically wrong at a school setting. And you're violating our policy. You know, if you see the attachment, we have an attachment about ITS policy on cheating. So it's the same thing, you know, if you're cheating in an exam, you're also plagiarizing and you're not learning anything. But when you're writing, when you don't give citation, you don't use punctuation, you're not respecting or acknowledging the authors for the hard work they have done by giving them any credits. So what causes plagiarism? So at this moment, you should pause this video, think about what would be the reason. why would we plagiarize? Is there any reason? Is there any factors? Are we under any kind of stress so that we end up doing it? What's the cost? So it could be, I ran out of time. That's a classic one because, hey, we have to copy because we ran out of time. It's due in 3 hours, my paper. I still haven't written a single word. So that would be a temptation to do that. I did too much research, so I got confused. That happens a lot to students who write dissertation or thesis, but that shouldn't be the excuse of plagiarism because yes, you do a lot of research, but you have to take notes and write down all the sources that you have used or come across. So being organized is very important in this category. I got a C on my last paper, and I need to get a good grade on this paper and for my class. Now we talk about a grade now. So C, where I come from, is actually a good grade. I'm from Hong Kong, so we use the British education system. So C means credit. If you get a C on any subjects, it's actually a pretty good grade. However, if you're in the United States, if you get a C, that means you don't know much about that subject. You basically maybe know only the definition, but no more than that. So if you get a C on the paper or class, you're probably not doing so well. And if you're taking this class in person, I will actually write down the grading system in America. We use grade point average, we call it GPA. And for GPA, if for graduate school, we are graduate level, you have to get like a 3.0 GPA. 3.0 GPA means you get all B's. If you get 2.0, that's all C's. That's bad, actually. The highest grade you could get for GPA is 4.0, meaning all A's. So what you consider as a good student, you should be able to get at least 3.5, meaning that you get half of your classes with an A, you get half of your classes with a B. So that's a definition of a good student. So I often recommend students not to take too many classes in the first quarter. Why? Because you need a good cushion. If you get all A's in the first quarter, that's good, very good job. Then if you come across a very difficult class like Hebrew or any systematic theology advanced classes, those are difficult classes. You might not be able to keep your A, but if you have all A's to begin with, that's a cushion that will allow you to maybe get a B or B minus, then it's still okay. So if you get just B's in your first quarter and you come across the more difficult classes, then your GPA will be in danger. To tell you the truth, I have gotten a D in my accounting class when I was in bachelor degrees program. And it took me 2 A's to pull the GPA up. That's very difficult. So if you get all A's to begin with, even though you got a D, I don't hope that you will, and I pray that you won't. But then if you got all A's, a D won't kill your GPA. So grades are very important, but C is not a good grade to tell the truth. But that still is not an excuse for you to plagiarize. I've written similar paper in other classes and my professor didn't care. Well, you were blessed once, but you're not gonna be blessed twice. Just because you have done it before doesn't mean it's okay. And honestly, you'll get caught because God is watching. So please don't do that. I didn't know what the rules are. I've never written a research paper before. Okay, that's why you're taking this workshop. This workshop is to educate you and bring your awareness of plagiarism so that you won't do it. Very important when you're writing a thesis, writing a dissertation, or you're just writing a research paper, a term paper, you have to keep in mind that you're not plagiarizing. Everything is your idea, or you will cite all those resources for the ideas that don't belong to you. It is a coincidence that my paper says the same thing. Wrong, okay? We often have husband and wife taking the same class, or studying at ITS, or mother and son, but that is not a good excuse. I don't care if you're twins. Your paper and the other paper shouldn't look the same. So if your husband and wife taking classes at ITS together, it's better to just separate from each other, avoid having maybe everything doing together. I think it's a pretty bad practice. So just, give each other some space, do everything on your own. But of course you can study together, but for Hebrew or Greek, it's a good idea to study together. But other than that, when you're writing a paper, you better keep each other away from each other would be the best. Okay, so we have ways to avoid plagiarism in writing. You could use quotation, you could use summary, and you could plagiarize, paraphrasing it. I knew I'm going to say it wrong. So whatever ways that you use, make sure you cite your sources. And in the next section, we're going to talk about citation. What is citation? What information you have to cite? We come across many information every day, writing a paper, doing dissertation, thesis, we have a lot of information that we come across every day, but what do we need to cite? Question number 1, let's go to the worksheet, part 2. Question number 1, you begin your report on nutrition with the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Do you need to cite or not? At this point, you can pause your video, think about it, and I'll give you the answer. Answer is no. Why? Because it's a common knowledge. We know eating apples is good for our teeth, so it is common saying, unless you're in the medical school, you don't have to cite this. Number 2, you provide a summary of a magazine article that offers ideas to support your argument. Do you need to cite or not? At this point, you can pause the video, think about it. I'll give you an answer. The answer is yes, because you are summarizing and the ideas are from a magazine article. So it's not your own writing. You have to cite and when you provide summary. Number 3, in the report, you include the map you found that pinpoints the 10 countries with the most pollution. Do you need to cite or not? So at this moment, you can pause the video, think about it, I'll give you an answer. The answer is yes, you have to cite. Why? Did you draw the map? If not, you have to cite because it doesn't belong to you. But when you're like writing a dissertation and you make graphs out of the research that you did, if you draw that graph, you don't have to cite because you draw it. Again, you didn't draw the map, you have to cite. Number 4, in an essay, you write the objects are pulled towards the center of the Earth because of gravity. To cite or not? You can pause this video, think about it, I'll give you an answer. Answer is no. Why? Because the gravity, things like that is scientific. And we're theology. So, but if you're in physics, if you're writing a dissertation in physics, you might have to get the source of this scientific facts. So the answer for this is no. Number 5, you learn about the views of the Martin Luther King Jr. on leadership from a website and put that information into your own words. Yes or no? Cite or not? You can pause the video, think about it, and I'll tell you the answer. The answer is yes, because the last phrase of the sentence is put that information in your own words. So you learn about Martin Luther King's his view on leadership. So you're learning, that's not your own words. But if you put that into your own words, like you're paraphrasing, you have to cite. So in this exercise, we are theological students. So a lot of common saying, you don't really have to cite. However, but love thy neighbor, that's from the Bible. We are theological. So if you quote this sentence, this verse, you have to cite. You have to provide like what chapter, what number, what verse with a bracket, and then in your bibliography or your reference list, you'll have to provide what version of Bible and other bibliographic information about that Bible after the end of your paper or your dissertation thesis. That's what we have to quote. And I mean, for medical students, if they use love thy neighbors, they don't have to because they're not theological, but we are. So whenever we use Bible verse, we have to quote and we have to cite the sources. So this is just a summary of what to cite and what not. And you can take your time reading this poster. I'm not going to explain any further because they're pretty self-explanatory. All right. So we're entering the third part of the workshop, the rules of paraphrasing. So now you know paraphrasing is you use the own word to restate information. So everything is that you're rewriting the information or the ideas you got from a book or other places. So there are 4 rules. Number 1, there's some words or phrase you can't change, like people's name, you probably can't change that. You need to use different vocabulary. So a thesaurus is very important. But if you only change some words, that's not going to be enough. So that's part of the paraphrasing rules. So you need to do a lot more than that. So you also need to use different structure. So the sentence structure has to be changed. Passive, active, things like that. I'm giving you a big hint, actually. So the last one is keep the same meaning. The meaning cannot be changed. So every time you paraphrase, you have to think of these rules. And we're going to do a small exercise, and we're going to put all this into practice. So let's rewrite or paraphrase the following sentence. This is a legitimate sentence. You have a subject, verb, object. Okay, you have a subject, verb, object. This is a sentence. So at this moment, you should pause this video and think about how to rewrite this sentence. Susan likes cakes. What words you need to keep, what words you could change, and then maybe the structure of a sentence, you can make it different. Think about it. So pause your video, give it a try. When we write on a paper, and then I'll tell you the answer. Okay. So I'll review the answer now. So there's something about the answer that I have to explain. First of all, we have names or words we cannot change, right? They're called verbatim word. So Susan, you can change the name because that's my name. Cakes, can't really change that because you can put ice cream because they're not cakes. You can not put bread because I don't like bread. I just like cakes. So there's some words you cannot change. So that's rule number one. And there's some words you could change, like vocabulary, like the word likes. You could turn it into favorites. So that's like that. And the sentence structure is different. So in here, I'm using signal phrase. So according to or based on blah, 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 those are signal phrases. When you paraphrase, if you use signal phrase, you're telling your reader or your professor that you're about to paraphrase. So signal phrase is very, very important that you need to use. And the fourth rule is that the meaning is the same. I didn't change the meaning of it. I mean, cakes are still my favorite food. Or you could change the word food. I can change it to dessert because cakes are desserts. Or baking goods. I mean, yes, it's baking goods too. So this is the correct answer, and it's just an example of how you paraphrase a sentence. So I hope you can apply this whenever you writing your paper, your dissertation or thesis. You're keeping this in mind that you have to paraphrase everything that you borrowed that's not your own ideas. All right, there are strategies to avoid plagiarism, many actually. Let's go through them one by one. Okay, so you're not sure. You're given an written assignment and you do have written maybe different, maybe same topic even, like you have something very similar. You should ask your professor, can I submit my old paper? Or, you know, every professor is different. And the most important ways to avoid plagiarism is to talk to a professor, ask him or her questions before you write your paper. Yep. And don't wait till the last minute to write your paper. That's really straightforward. Everybody knows that. But saying is easier than done. So allow yourself a lot of time, ample time to write your paper. And when you're writing for a dissertation thesis, you need to take notes, a lot of notes of the original sources, all the bibliographic information. And when you prepare the bibliography, make it correct and complete. There's nothing of overdoing your bibliography, I feel like. You can, because the more you better, you know, the more thoroughly, the better it is. And you reference every paraphrase, summary, and quotation. Reference meaning like you provide citation for everything that you do in your paper or your dissertation or thesis. As the professor, I mean, you're running out of time. Instead of copying, why don't you just ask for extension? Actually, this is a very common culture of ITS students. We ask for the extension. And I don't know if it's a fortunate or unfortunate thing, but your professor will give you the extension. So you have to talk to your professor no matter what. If you're running out of time, ask for extensions. Better than plagiarizing. Okay, whenever you did it and you get caught, don't make excuse. It's better to admit than to deny it. Okay, so why do we have this workshop? So the reason is, well, it's a violation of our school policy. It's about academic integrity. It's about whether you have learned something or not. But also, there's actually actual case that happened. And that's why I have to teach in both English and Chinese. The first case is that there's a Demon student and he's busy preaching across the country in the United States. So he was in the United States and he went to a public library and he copied the whole chapter of a book and then put it into his own dissertation. And the professor found out, but he denied it. So what happened is he got suspended. He could not go to school for months until he confessed, and then he's able to come back to school. However, he has to write a brand new dissertation with a brand new topic, and it took him a long time to finish because of that. So I'm hoping that none of you guys will be tempted to plagiarize, whether it's the writing, a paper, whether you're writing dissertation thesis, they're all the same. The other case in Chinese department is just the student copy past paper, and Dr. Tong, one of our, very famous teachers, and he's also the past ITS president, and of course he remembered it. So that student has to rewrite the whole paper, and basically that's the punishment. So if you want to know more about how you will be punished by cheating or paraphrasing, please spend some time reading the policy on cheating document attached to your email. So, any questions so far? You might have or you might not, because you're watching this video, so you can ask me questions later if you have one. All right, so that's the end. So please finish the rest of the plagiarism worksheets. There should be just one more section you need to fill out. And be sure to email me back to my library address, which is on the screen. If you didn't attend this class and you're watching this video, you probably should email me back. But for those who are taking my workshop live, they probably don't have to, because I already count the hat and I know who's present or not. This would be very useful. If any issue come up, then your professor will come to me, ask me if they have taken this workshop. And it's just a record saying that, yes, this student has taken my workshop. They know what plagiarism means. And so doesn't matter if you get the answer right or wrong on the worksheet. It's just like a record that I keep for any situation that might come up in the future. Who knows? Okay. So thank you for participation. Thank you for watching this video, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. God bless. Goodbye.